Those kids grow up, they don't have a father, they don't have a man in their life. It's a recipe for disaster. There's so much brain trust rotting away in prisons, you know. I've spoken to some of the vatos from some of these gangs, you know, the big gangs, and I tell them, I said, man, you know, in order to run a large operation like this, it takes a certain amount of intelligence, like running a big business. If you could have taken that intelligence and done something legit, you know. But the role models for us, Mexican Americans, are far and few between. A lot of us who succeed simply go home, count our money, and don't forget where that money comes from, you know. I'm just as guilty as many. Hey everybody, I'm Paul Rodriguez. Who? I was just put on the hot seat at the interrogation room. I told him things I don't even know. I told him just the facts, ma'am. If you want to know something about me, let's face it, who wouldn't, right? Being facetious. Watch the interrogation room. He got things out of me that, well, like the time when I was cross-dressing, but you'll see it all.
Thank you all for joining us for this new episode of the Interrogation Room. I have a special guest here. That is the legend, Paul Rodriguez, actor, comedian extraordinaire. Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
You know, the word legend just simply means you're old. You know, if you get to hang out long enough, you can be a legendary yourself. You know, it's just a way of surviving all the bull.
I'm going to try to get through this interview without laughing, but I know that's going to be virtually impossible.
All right, well, I'm gonna try my best to be dull, dull and uninteresting. You know?
Okay, so I invited you today because I'm just fascinated by your career, obviously, and I have so many questions for you. But one of the things that stood out to me is the fact that, you know, even though you have come up from the barrio, so to speak, from Compton, you haven't forgot your roots.
No, but I paint them. I paint my roots. I think you'll have to do that once you get to 60. Well, you know, it's not a question of forgetting your roots. I think there's a certain amount of nostalgia. You know, you want to go back. It wasn't all bad. There was a lot of good memories. I was talking to you off camera earlier that I grew up in Compton, but at the time I saw myself as very unfortunate. I said to my dad, hey, you couldn't have found another place to live. But in hindsight, it helped a lot. You know, I went to school with a lot of ball players. You know, Kenny Lander of the Dodgers was my classmate, and a couple guys with to NFL Pro, and a bunch of guys in the soccer team that we were in. We made all CIF, and there was a lot of good memories. You know, I don't think you realize you're poor or you're in a bad situation when everybody around you is like that. You know,
right?
And then and if success ever comes, it makes you appreciate it a little more. You know, yeah.
So what fascinated me also is the fact that you've actually took your comedy on the road and you actually took it inside of San Quentin. How did that happen?
Well, how that happened was there was a show called Comic Strip at the time, and I was invited to do that along with Elaine Boozler and George Wallace and the late great Jamie. So we went down there, and I went in there and I just jumped out into the audience, and there was this big Samoan guy there, and I just started goofing with him, and some people at HBO liked it, and next thing you know, I went back there and did a live. I think to this day is other than Johnny Cash, I think it was the first live show from San Quentin. You learn a lot, you know, and you learn a lot of sad things is going on, but but by the grace of God, I survived all that, and I'm now in my golden years trying to just, you know, slow down and just enjoy the things that I missed, you know.
Right. So how many times did you actually visit San Quentin?
Professionally,
Yeah.
I went there. I went there 3 times, and I was there a week. The warden at the time, I don't know what, I'm trying to remember his name because he was such a nice man. He said if I'd like to spend the night there, you know, to get a feeling of it all. And I said, yeah, I think I can imagine the feeling. I don't think I worked this hard to spend the night. But I got to tell you this: in San Quentin, they have $1 million view. You know, they've estimated that land where it sits overlooking the bay would be worth something like $6 billion if they were to put houses and everything there. So you know, if you want to get a view of the bay, you can get to see the what's that prison in the middle of it?
Alcatraz.
Alcatraz, a nice view of Alcatraz. Just get a bad lawyer and commit any crime, and you'll wind up there. You know?
So I understand you actually toured Death Row. What was that like?
Pretty sober, you know. Death Row is a place where I don't think there's a lot of funny things to be said about that. They have that's where they have the gas chamber and the chair. Matter of fact, I think it's the last place they used it. And they asked this convict, you know, do you have any last words, you know, any advice when you go down there? He said, when you walk into that room, don't sit down. You're gonna be all right.
Right.
But there's a lot of bittersweet moments. For me, it was like a high school reunion. There were so many of my classmates wound up there.
Really?
And yeah, and it was hard. There's nothing you can do about that. But I think we all make our bed, and we have to be man enough to sleep in it, you know.
Right.
But I have a lot of compassion because the older I get, the more I realize that we don't live in this justice for all kind of a situation. We're raised to believe that America has justice for all, but it has justice for some. And a lot of that has to do with economics. If you have a lot of money, I think your odds are very, very good that you won't do time. I mean, I think it's pretty common knowledge that O.J. Simpson allegedly was to blame for the murder of these people, but he didn't do time for that. He started doing time when he ran out of money. He couldn't afford Johnny Cochran and these other people. Unfortunately, we live in a society where people are judged by how much they're worth, not in their how much spiritually and soulfully are they worth, but how much do you have in the bank, you know?
Right.
And right now I'm penniless. So.
Right. So let me ask you. You obviously are a comedy legend, an actor extraordinaire. What was it like to work with the likes of Clint Eastwood and Bloodwork, for example?
Well, I think any red-blooded American would like to not just work with Clint, just to hang out with him. You know, he to me was so genuine and so nice. You know, I remember when I went to read for him, and he never read me. He just after a conversation he says, "All right, you're on. How much do you want to be in this picture?" And I said, "Well, let me see how much I have in the bank that they pay you because I would do this movie for nothing." And he was gracious, you know. He was very kind. I went to his house. I stayed a couple of nights over there. He loaned me his car. And I went to golf on the Pebble Beach, which he and a consortium of people own. I can't say enough about that. All I can say is that it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. But then so was working with Anthony Hopkins. You know, to this day I feel like it's not real. You know, I mean,
Right.
These are people I grew up watching, Dirty Harry and all these people, and all of a sudden you're sitting there, as Mexicans would say, tuteando. You know, tú y tú. You know, and it was hard to, you know, in the back of my mind, I was going, man, that's Dirty Harry right there, man, and he knows me. He's my friend, you know, and I'm working with him. But you can't let that psych you out because in the movie I'm his antagonist, and Bloodwork I hate him. I play a
detective.
A detective named Doroteo. Arango se llama Arango. Doroteo Arango was Pancho Villa's real name, for a little trivia, but his name was Arango, and we were shooting a scene, and he goes, "Cuss me out in Spanish," and he says, "Do Mexicans have any kind of sign?" You know, because the finger really, now I guess it does mean something, but for a long time the finger didn't mean anything in Mexico, you know. I said, yeah, just do one of these to me. He goes, wow, I like that. What is that? So just, it means everything you don't want to be, you know. So there's a scene there where at the end I'm coming out and I go, you ain't Mexican. You think you are. You got a heart like one, but you ain't. And he goes like that. And I go, oh. So he allowed you to ad-lib, to do some things there. And that was a pleasure, man. If I never do anything else, I'd be glad I did that.
Yeah. So how does it feel now to have a son in the industry, P-Rod? I mean, a lot of the younger generation knows who he is. Just saw him in Selena.
Yeah.
You must be very proud.
I am very proud. My son is everything you'd want from a son, you know. He's his mother did a great job, you know. I can't. I was in his life, but I wasn't living with his mother, and for that I'll always feel guilty. But man, we knock on wood. He turned out to be a great kid. He's a great businessman. He's polite. He's generous. He's everything you ever wanted to be in a son. I'll always feel guilty that I didn't really support his skating career. I didn't respect it. I didn't think it was conducive to any kind of future, you know. And boy, did he show me, because my idea of a skateboarder was somebody that wore a beanie, didn't speak English all that well, and smoked pot walking around my house at 32. That was my concept, you know. It's so ironic that I'm the one walking around his house now, asking him for money. He's truly, I've said this before, and some people have misconstrued it, take it, but he's the most fabulous accident of my life, because he wasn't planned. His mom and I were not married, or that much in love, but he was, he came into this life at a disadvantage, but he's turned out to be such a good kid. I get emotional, you know. He's been good to my family. He's been good to himself, and everywhere I go, when people tell me about my son, it's never a negative story, you know. I don't have to worry about him being an a-hole to somebody, you know. Say, hey man, I bet your son, he's so affable. He's such a good kid. And mom has to take all that credit, you know. I did what I could. I mean, he knew who his father was, and I tried to spend as much time. But when he was coming up, I was at the apex of my career. I was very busy. I was hardly at home. And she did all the heavy lifting. So the fact that he bought her a house and he got me a watch, it's fair. It's fair.
Well, watching Selena, I could see him in you, and I was just like, man, I could see your offspring is clear.
I'm proud of him because, you know, acting is something I never took serious. For me, stand-up was always the bread and butter, you know. It's only into my later years I started taking theater and stuff. I took acting a little serious. I wish I would have done it earlier, but you can't you know, turn back time. But he has. My son has a kind of personality that is that is very, I would say, addictive. You know, that's why he sets his mind on doing something. He will do that and only that until he gets it right. And it's been helpful in his skating, and it's going to be very helpful in his acting. But it also, he'll have to. I just wish he would have been more of a child. You know, he would have enjoyed his childhood. When he got to be 18, I sold a house that I was buying for him and his mom, and I gave him money. I gave him the money, totally expecting him to take off to Cancun with some nice girls and just come back broke, you know, for more. But no, he took it and he turned it into a business. Primitive Clothing is very successful. St. Archer, St. Christopher's beer, you see it in the stores. He has a brewery, and he never stops amazing me how smart and intelligent he is, not only financially, but he's got that rare combination of having a good heart and having a good mind. You know, I've never worried about him or drugs or doing all those things that are pitfalls to young men, and especially in this business. He's man. I told his mom one time. I said, you know, Laura, if I knew he was going to turn out to be that good, we'd have had more. What are you doing later?
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have so many questions for you, but something that you and I, when we first met, was the play that you wrote, The Pitch.
Right.
I mean, can you tell our audience a little bit about what inspired you to write that play?
Out of desperation. The Pitch is an indictment of the industry. The Pitch is a little bit of my life, but mostly just things that are true. You know, how difficult it is for Mexicans. I don't even use the word Latino, you know, because Cubans and Puerto Ricans are successful. I believe there should be more. But Mexicans in particular, you know, the man, the powers that be, they love everything about us, you know. I got a thing on stage where I say, they love the taco, they just don't like Paco.
Natasha, hold on, Norman, just a moment. Janice, hold my calls. Ball is here. Thank you.
Norman Lear.
You're kidding, the man's still alive? Jesus, what is he, 100?
He heard that.
Well, I didn't mean it in a bad way. You don't hear the praise.
No, Norman, he's joking. Always joking. He's
come on,
like
that's
a
what I do.
comedian. You could see Paul in a different light. You know, we have KFC calling.
What?
KFC.
It's about time. See, now the Colonel, he smells the tortilla, man. Get a side, Latino, you know.
No. For the Colonel, they have a French one and then they have a Chinese one, and now they want a Cuban, and you will play Cuban.
A Cuban Colonel? Now, come on, Cubans don't know nothing about fried chicken. They know pork. They're the experts in pork. Oye, agarramos un lomito de puerco.
If you're here for one day at a time, you're in the right place. Wrong day. If you're here for Snowflake, you're in the right place. So, Erica Estrada. Erica?
I'm pretty sure there's no Eric. It's Eric Estrada, and he's not going to be here. He's on the world's worst chef.
Ricky Ricardo.
Is that a joke?
Hey, Ricky!
He's not home.
Edward James Almost.
You're going to make an Academy Award nominee read for this piece of art?
Mr. Almost?
Yeah, he almost made it in.
Let me tell you something. And Pachuco, he doesn't read. He's got dignity.
Paul Rodriguez.
I'll read.
You know, they like our culture, our music, our beer, our women, our way of life. If they could have all of those things without having us to come along, they do that, you know. But I think our culture is powerful enough; it'll stand on its feet. I think we just need better leadership. If there was a wish I would make for La Raza, I would wish for better leadership and to make those opportunities obvious. You know, because how can it be that we are larger than African Americans? I mean, the census says that. We are numerous, and yet on American television, we're sparsely populated. And the roles that do come along, you have like 8 of us fighting for the same thing. And it's very difficult. But it all boils down to money, you know. I tell young people this, that we have to protest. What happened to the spark that we had in the 60s and the 70s, the Corky Gonzalez, the marching, the hey, we're here. It seems like most Mexican Americans, the few of us that get to be successful, we sleep on our laurels. You know, I did my thing, let somebody else do it. But until we protest, for the longest time, I have been trying to get 10, 20 Latino actors and actresses to dress in brown. Just dress in brown and stand silently at the entrance of the Academy Awards, the Emmys, the what have you, without no comment, not chanting, not saying anything, just a block of brown faces standing there. They would get the message right away. But I can't get nobody to do that, you know, and I'm not going to go to Home Depot and hire a bunch of us to do that. But I think that no matter what your station in life is, if you're in show business or if you're not in show business, I think a letter to Coca-Cola, to Procter & Gamble saying, hey, what about us? Don't tell me that protesting doesn't work. I don't know if you remember a few years back, African Americans were complaining the lack of African themed movies in the Oscars. You know, they had Chris Rock up there, you know, wailing at the audience for a year. Well, the very next year, there was a plethora of African American themed movies. Moonlight won, so it works. Somebody listened to it, and I think show business, like any other system, it's made like that. You have to pry. You have to go in there. You have to be sometimes rude to get the attention, and that's what the pitch is about. The pitch is about my experiences in trying to sell a show, and their experiences. Shh, careful, that cat's a killer, because it is. I'll tell you a story about them. But I think we have to be more active. You know, the image that they have about Mexican Americans is that we're passive, and to a certain extent, that maybe that's what we get from our Indio blood. You know, but I say we have to be like we are in the pitch, angry. And you know, the pitch has worked because a lot of actors, you know, we had the industry come to see us, and now there are some shows in the pipeline. But then there's been shows in the pipeline for a long time. The very problem of us being on television is this. Every studio has a minority liaison representative. Their job is to include minorities. In every studio, in every case, it's an African American. Now you got to understand when I tell you this that I'm not indicting African Americans. I'm not here to tell you some of my best friends. My life is an open book. You can tell how I feel about this, and I'll tell you. But every time they are accused of more minorities, it's never us. When John Daly left that vacancy, it never even crossed their mind to interview me or Felipe Esparza or another Latino to take over on Comedy Central. That's what bothers me. It didn't give us an opportunity to even audition. It didn't cross their mind. Right away they said, we're going to go black. All their talk shows, it's the same thing. There's no diversity until I see a brown face, and not mine necessarily. I'm in the twilight of my years. I've done what I'm going to do. But I know that there are Latino actors, actresses who are qualified, who have the skills, who have the talent. They never get to go past the tortilla ceiling, They don't see us as intellectuals, as smart, as competent, educated, witty, talented. They don't think like that. And it's a stereotype that continues to be propagated by that lens right there, You don't see us. I don't think since Jimmy Smith there's been an attorney. And I'm here to tell America that not only are we workers who work very hard, do the humblest of all jobs, but the children of those people working hard are educated. They're talented. They could do Shakespeare. They can do it. We're capable of doing all those things. All we really need is the affirmation, the resolution, the open that door. Let us have an opportunity. You don't have to give us anything. You don't have to guarantee us anything. This is not where we come from. Who would take any joy on getting a job just because of the color of your skin? But we would like to have an opportunity to be able to host a show. I don't know why they haven't done that, because they themselves have the fear that if it flops, they'll have themselves to blame. I'm saying you got to look at the glasses halfway full. I mean, I know I can name 10 qualified, talented, intelligent Latino and Latina comics who could have gone in there and filled that job. They didn't have to go all the way to South Africa to get an African American to do that. That's a long way to go. That's to say we need to scour the world when we're right here, And as long as I have life left, I'll continue to write things like The Pitch, and I'll continue to point my fingers at them, because they need a little sunlight in there. They need to know that the same rhetoric of talking. The Pitch is all about us pitching a television show with Cheech Marin, with Edward James Olmos, my son and myself. It was called 3 Generations, right? I saw a lot of other shows that weren't half as good. We never got to even write the pilot or do a pilot. They just said, yeah, it's a good idea. We'll give a few dollars, development money. But they had no plans of ever putting it on the air. And that's sad. The loss is America's. Because we are part of this country. Unless you have us, then you don't really have America, do you? You have a portion of America. And I'll say right here, I think African Americans are overrepresented. You cannot watch television without seeing an African American in every commercial. Every commercial. I saw a commercial that made me laugh. They had a black guy selling tacos on Burger King. I'm saying they've gone too far. We have to fight the powers that be. We don't have to fight them physically, but we have to fight them with our numbers. Our sadness, the sadness of Mexican Americans, especially in my point of view, is the lack of unity. We don't support each other. We don't. I try to live and try to walk the walk. I watch television or I see the news and I see a Latino television show or movie. I'm going to see it. I don't want to know what it's about. I don't even care. I am going to see it because I'm going to vote with my dollars. And I think that's what African Americans do. They support each other, and there's the proof. I'm proud to tell you that The Pitch is being published and is being done. I know it's being done in Kansas and several other universities. And I'm glad, because I didn't set out to be a writer or anything like that. But I think the days I have left on this planet are going to be, for me, to be a thorn on their side. I'm going to continue to ask for meetings, and the agenda is not to give me a job. The agenda is to, hey, you know what, CBS, aren't you tired of being so white or black? We need more Latino faces, and I don't mean in tertiary roles. And I believe it'll be good for your numbers too, because guess what? We're watching television, you know?
Yeah, right.
You know, I was talking to your friend Hector, you know, who has a documentary, The Last Narco, on Amazon. I am going to make it my business to go see it today when I'm done with this interview. And unless we have that kind of support from each other, we will always be third rate, and it'll be the sadness of my life that I believe I would like to see before my days are over, for us to be as common as African Americans are, for us to be as mundane. We're not even, there's not even enough serious Asians, who comprise 2% of the America's population, have more shows on television than we do. Now you tell me that's not a damn shame. And when you talk to these executives, they say, well, you got Telemundo, you got Univision. You know, to Mexican Americans, Univision and Telemundo is just as foreign as if I were watching Chinese television. Our children do not function in English. They're watching American television. And the danger is when my granddaughter sits and watches television and doesn't see herself in any of these shows, there's a sense of low self-esteem. I'm no sociologist, I'm no psychologist, but I believe that in my heart. We have to be as common. We have to, you know, can you throw a rock in any direction here in Los Angeles or in San Diego or in El Paso and not hit a guy named, somebody whose last name ends with a Z in the head? It's impossible. Our numbers are big. We're in Nebraska, we're in Dakota, we're everywhere. Everywhere where there's a job that Americans don't like to do, we're there. A couple of generations go by, our kids are citizens, we're part of this country. But we don't have a voice. None of our leaders do it. I don't think the National Council of La Raza, LULAC, Maldiv, I don't even think they talk to each other. You know, so they're petty little fights.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think we have to demand this from our elected officials. You go to the California legislature, the Latino caucus is very, very powerful. I've spoke to them about passing the water bond, and it passed. I said, if you guys can get past your own differences, you know, you didn't go to my fundraiser, I don't go to yours, I don't agree with it. If we just unite, why is having Mexican Americans justly and proportionately represented on American television is just as important as any other civil rights fight, in my opinion.
Right.
Because it's through the arts that you educate. You know, when Luis Valdez started doing plays on the back of a flatbed truck at Trato Campesino, it was to educate me, and I was there. That's where I first I got bit by the bug. You know, we have to instill in our children the deep belief that we're as good as anybody else that God placed on this planet. Until we do that, then those of us who've had an opportunity to succeed in this business to a certain level, we owe them that much, you know. We owe them to be boisterous. Our politicians need to walk in there. Do you think Jesse Jackson ever walks into the office of Warner Brothers and says, oh, please, could you? No, he walks in there assertive. Because he's, you know, the National Council of La Raza has to pay over $1 million for that 1 hour show to put their program on, the Alma Awards, right? They pay. They pay to get on that television. Jesse Jackson wouldn't pay. And I've told the leaders of this, you have to walk in there knowing that you have a big club. The quickest way for us to be on there. Imagine this. Imagine if every Mexican American decided for 1 month not to drink Coca-Cola. Not that it's not a good drink. Just don't drink Coca-Cola. And Coca-Cola's going to want to know why. Why? Because you have the power to walk into CBS, NBC, and all the alphabet soup stations and say, I want a Mexican or a Latino theme-based show, and I guarantee you that season will not pass, but there'll be 5, 10 shows out there. And then let the public decide what's popular. I'm not condoning a boycott on Coca-Cola. I'm just saying it could be Pepsi-Cola. But it would show our buying power. It would scare the hell out of them. Imagine, I don't think we really don't know how many of us there are here. But I know that every time I travel, that's all I see.
Right.
You know, so why are we not as numerous there? Why? Is because Our leaders don't think that's important. I'm sure there are other issues that are important, but I don't think there's an issue that's more important. The arts are important. The arts is what humanizes us, you know.
Right.
The arts is what differentiates us from all other species, you know. The ability to have pathos.
So I have a question for you regarding your upcoming project that's coming out in December this month, HBO Latino. Tell us a little bit about Chateau Vato.
Well, Chateau Vato is written by Tom Muska. He wrote Stand and Deliver, great movie, and it's about this family who just takes over the living quarters of a very wealthy person. It's sad, but the movie that won the Oscars last year, Parasite, that's what our movie is about. But our movie has been done for 3 years. We just barely made a deal. I'm not saying that is as good as Parasite, but I'm saying there'd be eyes to watch. I begged and pleaded with the director to call it I Love Lupe. I Love Lupe, it's a more affable name. People would have, you get it. It's about a couple that's in love and living in abject poverty, and they move into it's a fish out of water. But he was in love with the Chateau Vato, he was in love with that, a Mexican living in a chateau. And
Your house is foreclosed. It is time for you to vacate the premises.
Get our valuables and all the clean underwear. We're out of here.
A man like you, he's got a big heart. Maybe you need a little faith.
Anybody home?
we are going to only be here until we get back on our feet. And we're going to leave this place better than we found it.
Am I wrong to assume that your father went from 0 to 60 pretty fast?
It's not polite to ask how people made their money.
If they catch us, they're gonna put us in jail and throw away the key.
It will probably end, and badly. But until then...
I live in a chateau. Pool, sauna, gardeners, maids, the works.
Hey, the Chateau Vato!
I am.
Hey, it must be great.
No, it's hell.
So, like in anything else in my life, I'll fight to get my point of view, but once you decided that that's not what you want to do, then I'll support you. Let's roll. Right now, I'm up to my neck in making sure that Born Again is done. I finally got the money. I got the investors.
Well, that's a surprise for our audience. So can you tell us what you're talking about?
Well, it's really not a remake because we'd have to pay Universal money. But not a remake, but I mean a sequel. But it involves Cheech and myself as evangelists, two evangelists. And I'm saying, Cheech, we haven't even made a deal, but I'm coming after you. I got the money. And we come out of jail and we're looking for a con that's legal, and religion is the bastion of scoundrels, right? Just the other day I was watching television and there's a well-known minister there going, I need a brand new Learjet. And I know there's someone out there that's the balls to say that God wants him to get a brand new Learjet. Well, in our situation, the Latino market is wide open, so we're two religious scoundrels who go in there and use marijuana as a new sacrament, and we got this scantily dressed choir, and we're total scalawags, but it has a nice, it's a funny movie.
So this is your upcoming project.
In 2021, as God is my savior, knock on wood, I will get this movie done and in the hole. I've had to do a lot of other things. I did Cholo Zombies, which is a great experience.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. God, please forgive me. I won't commit this sin. This shit stressed out my life.
Take 2 steps to the right and you say what's up. Stumble out to the left cause you feeling drunk.
Why have you brought alcohol into my confession?
It's part of the story.
But I'm the zombie. Don't walk in, but I'm the zombie. Smoke up, what?
Paul!
Hey, what's going on here? What did you do to my laboratory? Dios mío, look at this, huh? Oh, okay, Mr. Zombie, vámonos, I got work to do, but I like the music. Yeah, you're the head zombie. All right. Roses are red and lemons are blue. Beans and tortillas makes me a zombie too. Well, how does that go?
They killed my sister, man.
We up!
Did you open that box?
No, of course not. Yeah, no.
Good.
I go straight to the bar when I walk in. Couple drinks later got me feeling real confident. I just wanna dance, I ain't here trying to...
You know, it just goes to prove there's a Mexican saying that says, más hace el que quiere que el que puede, you know. Those who want do more than those who can. And I'm going to take that advice and do it. Cholo Zombies was the very name, I said, well, I don't know, you know. I don't know if I'm going to put myself in that. But it was such a great experience. And I've had people already stop me and go, man, that was funny. And after all, that's really the only job that a movie or a program has. It has to entertain. Right. You know, nobody's going to sit there and be bored for an hour. And Cholo Zombie does that, you know. You know, Cholo Zombies are distinct and different. You know, I even try to tell the director that, you know how every time you see zombies, they're all disheveled and sucio, you know. Yeah. Cholo Zombies take pride into their attire, you know, the gig line, the khakis, you know, and they walk just a little crisper, you know. It's a funny thing.
Well, we were talking about diversity, obviously, in film and television, and one of the things you told me was amazing to me is the fact that I believe Lucille Ball was ahead of her time, and the fact that she gave you time as a young comic. Can you tell us about that?
I ran into Lucille Ball at the Bob Hope special, Christmas special. I didn't know she was going to be on the show, but I had been in show business maybe a half hour. And I walked into NBC Studios, and there sat Lucille Ball. I've met some big stars in my life since, but I don't think I'll ever get the feeling that I got when I saw her. Because here's a woman that came into everybody's home. And you feel like you know her, you know, but she was like watching Mount Rushmore come to life, you know. I was sitting in a corner being respectful, and she goes, come here, sit right here, sit right here. She grabbed my hand, and for the next 3-4 hours, I didn't talk. She just talked and told me about her love for Latinos, how Latino men are so, you know, womanizers. And I said, well, not me. And she was just a lovely, lovely lady to me. And told me stories about Desi, who I never got to meet. I met Desi Jr., terrific guy, nice guy. But I was just staring at her, you know. Someone came to life, you know. She had already a little tracheotomy thing, I think. Her voice was kind of raspy. But her eyes was as blue as they ever were, you know. And the day she died, I cried because I never met her again. But she gave me 4 hours of her time. And she was so gracious. She told me about the early days. She told me about her struggle, how she was considered a B actress in all these B movies, and how she never saw herself as a B. They didn't care what other people saw her as. She knew she was talented, and certain things needed to come together, and that Desi came into her life, and the rest is history. Do you know that every day around this world, her show is running somewhere in some country, 24 hours a day? It has to be the most successfully syndicated show. The things that Desi brought to this business, he invented the 3-camera shoot. He when they didn't see no value in the kinescope tapes, he said, "Great, I'll buy them off you." I think he got them for $1 a show or something like that, very, very cheap. And of course, we know that those billions of dollars in reruns and residuals, you know. But he had that foresight, and it was a Latino. We have contributed greatly to this country in all forms, industrial, comedic. And I think it's only fair that this country love us as much as we love it. Right. It owes us that.
Right. So something that people may not understand, and this channel typically deals with serious topics like murder in the Interrogation Room, but you and I had a talk before about how tragedy and comedy go together.
They do.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, you really don't know pain unless you don't experience pleasure unless you know pain. You know, my introduction to violent crime and it was in Compton. I witnessed things that no child should witness. You know, it was a war zone. It still is. Nothing has changed. America's so concerned about Columbine and high school shootings only when white kids began to shoot. You know, but I'm here to tell America that that kind of violence is commonplace before the Columbine, and unfortunately it still goes on. You know, sadly enough, the gun is the answer to a lot of frustration. You know. And and that is something that I can't pull. I can't do enough to pull the raza and young man out of that situation. The best any celebrity could do, at the risk of calling myself that, is to walk the walk and to live a life that's not filled with scandal. You know, you're not going to see Paul Rodriguez being arrested with drugs and drunk driving and doing things that bring shame not only upon me but upon what I try to represent. You know, that's the best I can do, and I think that if I can do that, then I would have contributed something. But there's a lot of upstanding Mexican Americans who should take the time to mentor a child. There's so many of our kids growing up with a single mother, you know, and that is a ticket to trouble, you know. And I've done what I can. I have my son also is a good example. You know, they say that the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree, but in my case, it was un ventarrón. It was a lucky shot. The mom put a lot of work in. But I know that out there are women up there who, I mean, it's tough enough just living your daily life. If they have one or two kids, you know, if those kids grow up, they don't have a father, they don't have a man in their life. It's a recipe for disaster. There's so much brain trust rotting away in prisons, you know. I've spoken to some of the vatos from some of these gangs, you know, the big gangs, and I tell them, I said, man, you know, in order to run a large operation like this, it takes a certain amount of intelligence, like running a big business. If you could have taken that intelligence and done something legit, you know. But the role models for us, Mexican Americans, are far and few between. A lot of us who succeed simply go home, count our money, and don't forget where that money comes from, you know. I'm just as guilty as many others. But I'm conscious of that, and I wish I could do more. I don't know how much time I have. I'm not expecting to die anytime soon, but you think of your mortality at 65, and I hope to continue to do what I do best. I can't spread myself out and take on every cause. I have a lot of people call me, can you support this cause? I mean, spiritually I can support you, but I'm going to take what I got and do what I know to try to have the most impact and leave, hopefully, you know, when people look back at my life, they could say, you know, he fought the good fight, you know. He did what his heart told him was the right thing to do. He tried to keep his nose clean and scandal-free and fight for those things that he believed in. And I hate to talk myself in the third person, but, you know, nadie tiene la vida asegurada. Esto puede cambiar de noche a la mañana. Y uno tiene que saber qué va a hacer uno con sus días. You have to spend, I think the older you get, you start seeing every day somehow more precious than the last, you know. This COVID thing has been sad because I'm not the kind of person that's sedentary, you know. I can't just sit around the house and do nothing. I have to find something to do. It'll drive me crazy. And for an older person, every day is a day I'm not going to get back, you know. Today I could have been somewhere and done something. But okay, I'll play along. I'll stay put at home. But I hope that everybody who's listening to me should be like a caged lion. When this thing is over and the door's open, man, we're going to go there. We're going to get together. We're going to have more things in common than things that are different. We're going to get things done. And I've told myself that I'll have this movie done. And my next goal is to start a theater company up in Fresno. And I want to find resources to make it available for youngsters free. You know, the last 3 years I've been doing theater. And I believe you can't call yourself an actor unless you've done theater. Doing movies, you know, you mess up, they roll again until you get it right. But there's something about the theater, you know, when you're speaking not your words, but the words of an author, you know. I want to do a theater. Teatro Campesino's not working that much now. Luis has gotten in years, and it's sad. I studied under him, and I've done several plays now. And I want to teach theater, you know. This will be the most I can contribute. Someday, maybe one of the kids from Fresno will make us all proud by getting that Oscar or getting that Emmy. And I don't see that all that far-fetched. The talent is there. And that's what I'm going to do. When not too far in the distance, you'll see me with my theater company out there. You're gonna come visit me, Pete. I'm gonna go see that kid over there. That kid's got it, man. That kid's gonna be the next De Niro, man. That kid's gonna put us on the map. You know, see that little girl? That girl, man. I can't wait.
So obviously, this channel we deal a lot with gang and crime and sort of depressing topics.
Yeah.
And we know there's people out there that are even suffering from depression and things, and people watch in prison the show. I'm just wondering what you would say. I know that you and I spoke earlier about Robin Williams and his life and kind of how it ended and what kind of impact that had on you. Could you tell our audience about that?
I had the privilege of meeting Robin and more than just a casual way. He was everything you could imagine. You know, a lot of times you meet a celebrity that you like, you know, you meet him on television, meet him in person, they disappoint, right? You go, oh man, I thought he'd be warmer, friendlier. Robin was a jet stream of funny, you know, just to infusing. You couldn't have a sad day around him, you know. He was always going, hey, what's up, hey, compadre, hey, what do you got going, hey. This guy was like the Tasmanian comedy devil, you know. Too bad his life wasn't that way, you know. He'll be missed. I knew Richard Pryor very well. Rodney Dangerfield. A lot of greats I've been fortunate to call friend. But Robin stands out, you know. He just does. He personally helped me in so many ways. I could never thank him enough. And you know, when there's someone, this has happened to all of us, right? Someone dies that you never met. They affect your life, you know. You know, God, you'll remember where you were, what you were doing, you know. That's when you know somebody really had an impact in your life. When you'll always remember, man, you know what? I was doing this and this and that when I heard Marvin Gaye passed. And, oh, man, I remember that day. The publicist called me, and she said, Paul, are you sitting down? And I'm going, what? I got nominated. She goes, no, you better sit down. And she said, Robin passed away. They just found him. And it's like being punched in the gut, you know. You go, oh. But got a lot of memories, you know, of him coming to the house. My kid, you know, when he was a kid. And but you never really know, you know. You think you know somebody, and you never really know what's going on in their lives, you know. God, if I would have known, you know. Richard Jennings, another great comic, was here in my house 2 days before he took his life, and I had no clue that he was saying goodbye. He was saying, you know, Rod, I want to tell you, man, you've always been good to me, man. I want to let you know, man, you're a good guy. You know, I appreciate you. I didn't know he was saying goodbye. I'd have stopped him, you know, but you know, life and death, they're the yin yang, right? You know, just appreciate the times you had, and I do. A lot of memories of that man. One time I was excommunicated from the Comedy Store. I said a bad joke Mitzi didn't like, and she said, "Get out of here! You're not gonna work here anymore." And I was sitting there on the steps of the Comedy Store, going, "Man, you know, the Comedy Store is like the epicenter of comedy, you know. And now I'm getting thrown out of here, man. It's over, you know. I might as well go back to school or something." You know? I turn around and I see a pair of Converse tennis shoes, and it's Robin. He goes, "Hey, that was funny, but..." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Go home, take a shower." He goes, "You'll be working here tonight." What? He goes, "Yeah." I said, "No, man, she's here. She just threw me out. This is Mitzi Shore. Nobody's higher than that." She goes, "You'll be here tonight." I went home, and an hour later the phone rang, and it was her secretary saying, I had an 8 o'clock spot in the main room. I think only Robin had the power to change her mind, you know. Oh, I loved Mitzi Shore. She was a wonderful lady to me, and I can't think of anybody that would have changed her mind. You know, when she set her mind that you're not there, you're not there. But he called it. You'll be here tonight. He did everything but tell me the time. And how do you thank somebody for that? You know? How do you?
He's a true friend.
He was a true friend. But Robin had that. You know, I'm not sitting here. You know, there's a lot of us, a lot of guys who had their own personal rapport with him. You know, so a lot of guys will tell you that I was his best friend. They probably were. Robin had that ability to give everybody their space and their time, and you had a special relationship. And I was lucky. He was generous, magnanimous. Another story, we did a show at Garfield. Sinbad and I produced a show called Back to School. And we got Robin to be on. And Robin went on, and for the first time and only time in my life, he died on stage. Mostly Mexican-American kids. It was hot, they were sweaty. He just couldn't get their attention, you know. And we told him, you know, I was producing it with Jeff Walden. I said, don't sweat it, Robin. You were funny. We're just going to sweeten it. Put some laughs there. Nobody will know. He goes, I'll know. He says, I got to do it again. I said, well, our whole production is wrapped up. There's just no way to do that. He goes, I got to do it again, Rob. He says, I'll pay for it. We had no more budget. We did it again, and he came on fresh, and he did a routine that was mind-altering. He talked to kids. He goes, you want to get high? This is a new drug. It's a book. Oh, you can travel, man. What? He does this whole thing on. It was funny. It was intellectual. It got to them, and he was great. You know, he did that, and he put air conditioning in that school.
Wow.
Wow is right. Of course, if you go down to Garfield and you ask them, they're going to say, I think Paul Rodriguez put this air conditioning. But it wasn't me. It was Robin. And he was like that with his money, you know. He was the easiest touch. I remember many times. Comics, you know, we're always on the verge of making it or rebounding. He was always good. He never carried money himself. But he always said, give me an address. I'll send those. And he would. He was that kind of guy, man.
The good heart.
Good heart. There won't be another one like him.
Yeah.
But there are some other people who'll take their own spot, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm banking that they're Latinos, man.
Yeah. So obviously I've seen in your career that you've had a heart for young kids, and when you went to San Quentin, you were talking to them, trying to tell them to, you know, stay free of gang life and things like that. Is there anything you'd like to say in these parting moments to our audience about?
Well, I got nothing against gangs, Mike. Let me make that clear. There's a lot of gangs. Like Kiwanis, they're gangs. My father didn't let me join the Boy Scouts because he was convinced that was a gang. He said, well, what's the difference? You know, you wear khakis, they wear khakis, you know. You got knives, they got knives, except your knife's got spoons, but it's a knife, you know. But I'll tell you, for those who are going to succeed, there's nothing I can say to stop you. For those of you who are determined to be knuckleheads and learn the hard way, sadly, no, there's nothing I can do about that either. But just take a second and look at your life. Where do you want to wind up? You know, as far as drugs and drug dealers, there's common knowledge, death or jail. You know, maybe a couple of moments with a lot of girls and a lot of fast money, but that's no way to enjoy it. Just look at the people you want to be like and look into what got them there, you know. I wanted to be a comedian. I was obsessed with watching comedians. I had a certain measure of success, and for that I'm grateful. But if you want to be a pilot, you know, you go into the Air Force or you read voraciously anything about pilots. There are many roads to success, and success doesn't necessarily mean wealth, money. I've always said that money is a byproduct of doing something very well. And whether you're a designer or whatever it is you want to do, you can do it here. Nothing's easy, but the amount of success should equal the amount of ganas, you know. And I do believe these aren't just words. That anything you obsess yourself about doing can be done, you know. I wanted to be a woman, but that's another story.
Paul, thank you so much for being with us today in the Interrogation Room. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming to my house and getting me out of this boredom, man. It was driving me crazy. I walk around like, anybody want to talk to me? Much love.
I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today in the Interrogation Room. And I also want to thank you for taking the time to send in your positive comments and for all the likes and shares. If you haven't taken a moment to subscribe down below, I'd ask you to do that. and to continue supporting the content that we're putting out here on the Journey to Justice channel. And until our very next episode, I'll see you again in the interrogation room.